Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with pro wrestlers and pro wrestling personalities about their careers in and out of the ring, helping out in doing acts of community service and charity work and just doing good for others. You know, we try to keep it positive around here. And I've got a very special guest with me today. This man is a manager extraordinaire. He is a manager to the stars. He has worked for so many different promotions in Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Mississippi, you name it, around the southeastern Midwest regions. He has done it all. He's managed so many legends like Tommy Rich, like Carlito, Scott Steiner, Katarina Waters, Missy Hyatt, just to name a few. He's won 28 championships.
29 now.
29.
Actually.
Oh, wow. 29. Okay. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. He's also managed against people like Jerry Lawler, the Boogeyman, Rikishi, just to name a few. I'm pleased to welcome Pete Rosen, a.k.a. Lucky P. Larson Esquire. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Even a little early for me, but that's all right.
Okay.
The things I do for the business.
Yes, it's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work,
Yeah. Well, it's all right. I enjoy talking about wrestling.
Yeah, it's good to be passionate about something you love, and that's kind of what we try to do here on the podcast is talk to people about their passion, and both in and out of the squared circle.
Definitely passionate about this. There's got to be a reason I go wherever I go and get the snot beat out of me half the time and keep showing up for more. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, doing a little bit of research, you grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, right?
I did. Actually, home of the city for which the Fig Newton was actually named. Believe it or not. It's true.
You learn something new every day. Wow.
See, if you shut up, you might learn something. I always tell everyone I'm from Boston, but that's because people generally don't know where Newton is. But yes, proudly from a suburb of Boston, which I consider to be the world's greatest city of champions. Mm-hmm. Go Bruins, go Celtics, Patriots and Red Sox, not so much right now, but that's all right. We've had a good run. Yeah,
I've got a lot of family in Boston, so I can definitely relate. I was actually in Boston over the Thanksgiving holiday. Actually stayed around. Yeah. So I stayed around Peabody at a hotel there and just walked around. The water is beautiful. Gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's I can tell that you've actually been there because you pronounce it correctly, Peabody rather than Peabody.
Yeah,
Peabody. Worcester, not Worcester. So yeah, I get it. Good job.
Thank you. I was actually there too as well. It's cold. For New England.
It can be. Growing up, they always used to say that the beautiful weather was God's way of apologizing for the Red Sox. But now that we've won 4 times in the last 20 odd years, it's not as bad.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you grew up in Newton. Tell me about your childhood and upbringing.
Well, I like to say that these 3 statements are all true. And if anybody can figure this out, I'll give you a free lucky t-shirt. A, I was at my parents' wedding. B, I was born legitimately. And C, I have no step parents.
Wow.
Can you figure that one out?
Whew. I don't know if I can.
All right. So my biological mother and biological father had me. Then my biological father had the babysitter. So my mother booted him, lived on my grandfather's money until I was almost 7. She married George Rosen, who adopted me. And hence I was at their wedding. I have no step parents because my father adopted me. And I was born legitimately because my parents at the time were married. So anyway, and so I'm very grateful to my dad, who adopted me. And of course, my mother's been there from day one. And ironically enough, my mother absolutely despises wrestling. So I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah. That's quite a story, just
Yeah.
really,
Well,
really.
most things about me are a bit different. So
Yes.
yeah, I think everybody in wrestling's got to be a little bit different.
Oh, no doubt. You meet so many people that have stories that they had normal childhoods, they didn't have normal childhoods, they had, tipsy turvy life, going, navigating through to their destiny and, you know, reach the apex of their career. So, wow, 7 years old.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and my dad used to take me to wrestling at the Boston Garden every month
Hmm.
because I've been a fan since before WrestleMania 1.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
a long time.
it is because I actually remember the war to settle the score.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and every that's of course way before cable TV, and so everything was based on the house show circuit, and
Mm-hmm.
so they would show up in Boston every month, and they'd have the matches announced ahead of time, and then they'd bring back return matches with stipulations, and then they'd build up to the blow off, and it's funny because I'll never forget thinking when I was young enough. I did used to be young once and had hair. That Harley Race and Hogan wrestled in a street fight, and the finish of the match was Race put Hogan on a belt, and then he jumped off the top rope with a headbutt. And Hogan moved, and Harley headbutted the belt, and then Hogan hit the leg drop and won. And I'm thinking, wow, that too bad because I always hated Hulk Hogan. And then they have Saturday night's main event, and sure enough, the same finish. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it didn't work in Boston. What makes him think it's going to work here?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of times they try stuff on house shows that,
Yeah, of course.
geez, if this worked here, then maybe it could work on TV. So,
Yeah, but
yeah,
no, I wasn't thinking it worked for the audience. I was thinking, gee, it didn't work for Harley Race. Why would he try it here? Because I hadn't yet figured everything out.
I understand. Yeah, it's one of those things where in your mind you go, hmm, it's like that.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to believe.
Yeah,
It's that's part of the beauty of wrestling. It's a live soap opera that you can basically forget about life, forget about your problems for a couple hours or for whatever it is, and just truly lose yourself in what's going on. You can relate to somebody on the card generally. And if not, you can relate to hating somebody on the card, which
sure.
is generally where I come in.
Yes, yes. So Boston, it's famous for the sports teams,
A
basketball,
little bit.
hockey, Red Sox, Patriots. So why wrestling? What out of all the sports, you don't really think of wrestling much in terms of, sports or live
Well,
entertainment.
I mean, I think that especially given the state today and the you know somewhat life support of kayfabe, I don't know that I ever call wrestling a sport. I call it sports entertainment, or I call it a show. I call it it is what it is.
Yeah,
It is but I absolutely positively despise the F word. Because look, I'm honest, and it's 2023. Most people, although there are still some who are, but most people, are aware. Is it choreographed, predetermined? To some degree, is it a legitimate sports competition based on the winners determined by speed, skill, strength, strategy? No. Vince McMahon's admitted that to the New Jersey Sports Commission to get out of millions of taxes. So nobody's going to lie about that now.
hmm,
But is it the F word? Absolutely not. I mean, I've seen people get break their neck. And I don't mean on TV. I have seen people collapse the second they get behind the curtain.
oh
I've seen
sure,
people break their legs. Again, not just Sid Vicious on TV. I've seen people literally do this in the ring. I personally have hurt both hands, my neck, my shoulders, my knees, my back. But, there's a reason that people keep doing this and keep doing it when they're hurt. And it's the best way to describe it is what a good friend of mine, she was my friend and my client, Daphne, Shannon Spruill, used to say to me, and she's very right. She would say, wrestling is its own drug. And once you get it in your system, you cannot get it out. And it's very, very true.
Daphne, for sure. I know you were friends with her too, for many years. That was a tough loss for the business.
The best way to put it is this: when WrestleMania was in Orlando, she refused to be seen by anybody. She wouldn't go to the convention. She wouldn't do anything because she didn't like how she looked. And, she had fusion surgery and couldn't move. She had a thyroid problem. She had a hysterectomy. She had 2 serious, serious injuries. And, she saw me because I was her friend, and I went to give her a hug. And I literally couldn't touch my hands when I put my hands around her. And that's got to be very, very hard for somebody who, made a living, in parts being, Zombie Hot, the goth goddess. And, she was struggling. And I told her, I said, Shannon, who cares? I mean, you're the same person. So what? Your shell's a little different. What's the difference? But, she had issues with her weight, obviously. She had bipolar disorder. She had a number of mental health issues, and she just, fell into a deep depression and couldn't get out. I mean, she thought she was alone, and she wasn't.
You just never know what somebody's going through. I was talking with, I don't know if you know who Lexi Fife is.
Absolutely.
I had her on the show recently, and she was talking about her friendship with Daphne, and
yeah, I know.
She kind of said the same thing. She wanted to lend a hand to her, but
when you're in that state, it doesn't matter what you hear or who reaches out to you. Sometimes if you're that deep into it, you just can't get through. It was very, very sad. Like I said, I have not been in the business nearly as long or as deep as some people, but I've still lost friends. Brian Christopher was a friend of mine and a client of mine. Candy Divine was a friend of mine and a client of mine. Tracy Smothers was a friend of mine and a client of mine. So, and they're all gone now. You never know what anybody's going through. You really don't. And that's, it's kind of like the point of wrestling is to forget everything going on in your life while you're there. But, and that's one thing I learned, very early on, is that there was a big difference between Daphne and Shannon. Just like, there's a big difference, a chasm of difference between, I like to think, between Pete and Lucky. So, it's just
2 sides.
Well, yeah, but if you don't have bad guys in stories, you don't have good guys. You just have guys. There have to be bad guys for there to be good guys.
At what point did you say, I've got to get involved with wrestling? This is what I want to do.
Well, I always would have loved to do it. I just never thought I would. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer forever, it seems. In fact, as of tomorrow, it will mark the 30th year I've been a lawyer.
Oh, but very nice. Happy anniversary.
Gee, thanks. But, but it's always something, that I've enjoyed. Like I said, I've now been to 10 WrestleManias. I've been to 3 WrestleMania after parties. I was Lanny's guest when Randy Savage got into the Hall of Fame. In fact, I like to say I heard his speech so many times before he gave it that I could give it.
Oh man!
I have, he ran his speech by me at least 500 times, and I am literally not kidding you. I heard it every day, over and over and over and over again. And I helped him tweak it. If you ask him, he has gone on record in interviews saying that I helped him with something in his speech that made a huge difference. I'll leave that to him. But so, Yeah, I mean, I've been to, even when I moved to Tennessee to go to Vanderbilt, I went to Starcade here a couple times. Actually saw Piper beat Hogan, so that was pretty fun. But I've always been a fan and still attended, but it wasn't until I got to know a couple people that I ended up, the road led me into it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been a lawyer for now 30 years, soon to be 30 years. Um, Tell me about what got you involved with wanting to do that? What made you want to pursue being a lawyer?
Well, basically, given my upbringing, it's what my mother told me I was going to do. no,
Okay.
no, I have very unsteady hands, and I can't stand the sight of blood, so couldn't be a doctor. And accounting was too boring, so I didn't have many other choices.
No.
It's funny because I went when I went to high school. I was there for two reasons: so I could get good grades to get into a good college, and so my mom didn't kill me. And then when I was in college, I was there to get good grades so I can get into good law school, and so my mom didn't kill me. So yeah. Plus, as people will say, apparently the going thought is I think quickly on my feet. I'm not shy. I have an answer for everything and love to argue. So apparently that leads to being a lawyer.
Yeah, it's a hell of a career. I mean, you get to be in front of the courtroom and you show your display of confidence when you're in
Well,
front of when you're in front of people, just like with wrestling.
yeah, I think that one lends well to the other. I mean, I like to think that I cut good promos. I've been told that I've generally over the last 7+ years, I've been put with people by promoters who maybe aren't the greatest talkers, and I'll do the talking for them. I mean, a lot of stars, they didn't need to talk. I mean, Yokozuna went years without talking. I mean,
Hmm.
he spoke perfect English, but he just didn't. I mean, for years, Brock Lesnar didn't speak. I mean, Mike Tyson is one of the most intimidating people in the world, but I don't know that his voice exactly is the most intimidating.
Sure.
So now, Mike, if you're listening, it intimidates me. So just but yeah. So and I enjoy it. I've got a pretty good memory, so I think that it lends well to doing it. And knock on wood, I've seemed to have done okay.
When you're as you've gotten further as a career as being a lawyer, I'd imagine it's kind of stressful at times. What's your
You think?
I'm for
Uh,
sure. I mean,
yes, yes. I would imagine. I'm not. Again, like I said, I don't know what anybody else is going through, so I'm not going to put down any other profession. But I cannot imagine a job more stressful than being a lawyer. Maybe being a doctor, because you screw up there, you might kill someone. But here, yeah, I mean it's stressful. It is very, very stressful.
have there been times where you've said in your head, "Gee, something may not be working out. What would I want to do instead?" Is there, or do you
Oh,
feel it's
I've
been?
said many, many times, I wish I could make a living at being in wrestling. If I could, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I love it that much. But I will say this: there's a connection between the two because I get a lot of legal work through wrestling.
Hmm.
I go to shows, and I've represented, I can't tell you how many people in our locker room on criminal charges or domestic charges or domestic issues, people in the crowd, both accidents, work comp claims. I represented Candy Divine in a work comp claim. I there are two other uh, big names who I'm not going to say who they are, but one of them has been at WrestleMania, and the other has been a world champion in another company other than WWE, and I represent both of them. So, I've been a lawyer to a lot of wrestlers and wrestling fans. Anybody watching this, you need a lawyer, you can go to Lucky P. Larson Esquire on Facebook, and you can send me a message. But so I get a lot of my work through wrestling these days. So they commingle with each other. I don't just play a lawyer on TV. I am a real lawyer, which is actually interesting to a lot of fans when they don't know that I'm a real lawyer. I'll never forget. I was in court like 4 years ago, and I saw a fan in the crowd. And he's talking to somebody. He's like, "Oh my gosh, look, he's a real lawyer," and it was quite humorous. And I left the courthouse in Jackson one time, and the bailiff asked me as I was leaving. He said he kind of ran after me. I thought, what happened? And he said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where are you from?" And my answer is always, "I'm from Boston. I could be here 50 years. I'm from Boston."
Yeah.
And he said, "Huh, all right, because you look so familiar." I said, "Okay, I live here now, but I'm from Boston." And he said, "I'm gonna ask you a dumb question." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you involved in wrestling?" I said, "Yes." And this was in Jackson, where we filmed TV for years.
Yeah.
And he said, "You're that guy that carries the briefcase, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." And so that was kind of funny. But there was also a time that I went through the metal detector in court, and I took my phone out, my keys out, my wallet out, and I walked through, and it went off. And I'm like, well, I don't know what else I've got. It's probably the belt. So belt, it still goes off. I'm like, dude, I don't know what it is. And I'm reaching into my pockets, and then I pull out the steel chain I had in my pocket. I'm like, oh, brother. Yeah. He said, "Do I even want to know?" I said, "Not really." And I just put it in the thing and went by. So
it's really funny and interesting that some of the best characters, not just wrestlers but managers, they base their characters a lot of times based on things that they've done or jobs that they've had in real life.
Yeah, that's
like I think of Paul Bearer, Bill
right.
Moody as a good example of that, because he was a mortician, a certified mortician,
right,
before he became Paul Bearer. I think he was a wrestler or manager before that too. But
he was Percy Pringle.
He was Texas. Percy Pringle. Yeah, yeah.
And Lanny's always told me that. He said that I've got that going for me, that I'm a real lawyer, and so I can really play the sleazy lawyer, because I am.
And you do great at it. I mean, we were talking about the F word, in wrestling. It's no joke. I mean, when I saw you in Selma a couple months ago, in that tag match, you managing, I forgot who you were managing, but it was with Lawler. Lawler was your guy you're managing against, and you got a pie thrown at you. I mean,
yeah, that
had to have been like, oh my gosh.
I've been hit with, Rikishi hit me with a steel chair and has decked me. Solo Sikoa hit me with a super kick. I've been hit with Jimmy Hart's megaphone, Jim Cornette's tennis racket. I've been wormed by the boogeyman. I've been thrown into cages. I've been beaten up by the Rock and Roll Express, by Jerry Lawler more times than I can count, by superstar Bill Dundee, Doug Gilbert's baseball bat, Tommy Rich. I've been speared. I've been put out with a sleeper hold. I've been hit with my own briefcase more times than I can count. I've been hit with a golf club, a frying pan. People just love to see me get the snot beat out of me.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.